Hi, welcome to our session today here at Connect Live on Know-How at your fingertips. How to bring all your best practice in one place with Thomson Reuters Practical Law and law firm knowledge in Insight. So with me today, I'm really pleased to say, is Zorik. Zorik, would you like to do an introduction to yourself and kind of your background?
Yeah, sure. My name is Zorik Pesachinski. I'm a director on the large law firm strategy team here at Thomson Reuters. And before that, I was on the practical law product team for a number of years.
Great, thank you. And my name's Alex Smith. I'm the iManage AI product lead here at iManage and have worked on legal tech products and content for over 20 years. I've been here now at iManage for 2 years. Okay, today we're going to be talking about integrating practical law content within knowledge systems and in particular, obviously, Knowledge Unlocked here at iManage. I'm just going to start with kind of one persona, and I'm going to ask Zorik if he's got a few more scenarios that he knows the practical law is used in. But here we have Jill. She's a second-year associate. She works across transactional matters, and really kind of she's in the middle of multiple matters that are going on every day. She's looking for a starting point or guidance on how to do her job. She's also looking for templates and some of the firm standards as well as external standards to allow her to have all the best things at her fingertips and maintain consistency. And also at times looking for how to do things and insights into kind of key areas of law at the time. So Jill's kind of like going to be our persona that we talk through today, but Zorik, I'm sure there's plenty of other personas that utilize practical law content.
Obviously, the new associate getting up to speed is definitely a key persona. But with practical law, really useful for lots of different personas, including people that have been practicing for ages. With practical law, we've got a team of hundreds of editors with an average of 12 to 14 years of experience from large law firms in-house, drafting and maintaining know-how guidance and standard documents and checklists. And they're all maintained, so they're all up to date. So even if you've been working on something for 8-10 years, when there are changes in the law and you don't have the time to go through all of that information to respond to a client really quickly, you know that you can turn to practical law, and there will be guidance there that's already updated with those new changes. Likewise, if you're at a smaller firm or if you're in-house, right, you're getting hit with new types of work that you've never done. And practical law is going to be a really great way to learn that new area of law and give you confidence that to complete that assignment, even if it's not an area that you've been practicing in for eight years or so. I think one way that customers describe it that really captures how useful it can be in lots of different scenarios is they say, practical law is like having a large team in my office supporting the business at a fraction of the cost. So yeah, I think really lots of different personas and use cases.
And there's lots of different types of content in practical law that obviously reflect the kind of knowledge banks that law firms also maintain themselves. So, everything from templates to overviews to kind of how-to guides. So for different types of lawyers or in different scenarios, there's different starting points. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Obviously, a bunch of different practice areas in the US alone. We're over 14 practice areas, even more in the UK, and then different resource types depending on what you need, right? We'll have practice notes, which are really a bit longer, really getting you up to speed on a new area. But then we'll also have checklists, right? If you're going through a particular deal and you just want to see, okay, what are all the things that I need to make sure that I'm hitting on? That's going to be available to you. And of course, standard documents. That can be your starting point, your precedent. Really like to think of it as, getting you 80% of the way there, right? It might not have that client and matter specific information in practical law, but it's going to have, here's the market standard in this kind of deal to get you 80% of the way there.
Okay. So let's keep Jill in mind as we go forward as the person that's kind of interacting on a daily basis with her own internal know-how and with the practical law content. So what we're here to show to you today or talk about through today is around how we've integrated practical law within our knowledge locator and within iManage. So how can we allow users to access the best possible know-how at the point of need? So Zori, do you want to kind of sort of to touch on, say, the practical insights here, and then to sort of talk us through some of the, as we said, just carrying on what you said about, the type of things which are in practical law and kind of when they're, point of need for those, so things like precedents or templates.
When somebody's working on a new assignment, one of the things that we hear regularly, and I'm sure you hear this too, is that just finding what you need, the very specific thing you're looking for, can be challenging. And obviously searching within practical law, you could find some of that. I think one of the exciting things about some of this coming together is that, being able to search together, you start finding the content you need in practical law and can see what else matches internally as well. So I think about that example I gave you. Practical law gets you 80% of the way there, but you might have drafted something a year, 2 years, 4 years ago that you're like, you know what, I know this was really on point, or there was some clause there that I want to use, but you might want to check if it's still up to date. And now you'd have both of those things coming up with practical law and maybe your internal document, being able to cross-reference them and kind of use the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and we'll have a demo a little bit later, which will talk us through kind of a real world scenario for that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we see as well from the iManage knowledge side here is firms manage some of their own information as well. So they're building their own how-to guides and best practice, and obviously have templates in certain practice areas and certain groups. But actually having that all within one search, and in this case within an experience which is like a knowledge bank, is great. So you can actually within the same search, the same relevancy, find the best possible example from your search. I think the other thing to say here is the way we've designed this is that, we really want to get people into the right user experience and the right UI at the right point in time. And we'll show this a bit later, but, having shared user journeys where we can get someone from navigating or browsing their own information and the practical law information, but then going into the practical law application at the right point in time. And Zori, do you want to kind of touch on kind of, the kind of journeys which come on, and, as Insight can open the door into practical law, kind of what other experiences you get within practical law and the experience of navigating around practical law?
Obviously finding the content really useful, but then once you're in practical law, depending on the type of resource you're looking at, additional functionality that's going to be useful there. Thinking about our standard documents and the drafting notes within the document and being able to kind of, collapse, expand what's relevant to you there. Some of the functionality of being able to compare laws and things across jurisdictions, right? So maybe you come across something and you're thinking, okay, I'm working on something that touches on multiple jurisdictions. You find what you're looking for in the Insights experience, you could click through practical law and start expanding, okay, what's this guidance in other jurisdictions and how does that match across?
Yeah, exactly. And we, here we don't want to replicate that experience. So very much it's aimed about finding the information, giving clear signposts, which is your internal knowledge, which is your external knowledge from practical law, and how to get people into that experience as soon as possible. I think the other exciting thing about what we've done is to kind of integrate kind of at a full text level on your API. So that allows us to start to make other connections within the search as well. So really, really kind of marrying together. Let's say someone has found an internal firm document, they can also then look for other similar examples, some of which will obviously be from practical law as well. And, I think it's been a really good experience working with you on your new API and being able to get that data and the metadata you put in, which I think we're going to touch on in a minute. But I think the other interesting point here is that, as firms start to think about their knowledge and know-how strategies, it's kind of like you talked about the 80%. I mean, there's another slight ratio thing that I've heard before, which is kind of like the 80-20 or the 20-80 rule, which is what content is truly worth writing from the law firm side of, being truly unique and different, and how the firm does something, and which can utilize the practical law investment that the firms have already made. So kind of being really clever around what to write and what not to write, and utilize your investment in practical law.